Okay, 2 Samuel chapter 12 today. Then the Lord sent Nathan to David, and he came to him and said, There were two men in one city, the one rich and the other poor. The rich man had a great many flocks and herds, but the poor man had nothing except one little ewe lamb, which he bought and nourished, and it grew up together with him and his children. It would eat of his bread and drink of his cup and lie in his bosom, and was like a daughter to him. Now a traveler came to the rich man, and he was unwilling to take from his own flock or his own herd, to prepare for the wayfarer who had come to him. Rather, he took the poor man's ewe lamb, and prepared it for the man who had come to him. Then David's anger burned greatly against the man, and he said to Nathan, As the Lord lives, surely the man who has done this deserves to die. He must make restitution for the lamb fourfold, because he did this thing and had no compassion. Nathan then said to David, You are the man. Thus says the Lord God of Israel, It is I who anointed you king over Israel, and it is I who delivered you from the hand of Saul. So the rich man was David, the poor man was Uriah, and Bathsheba was the ewe lamb. The stealing and slaughtering of the lamb was a depiction of David's adultery and murder, both punishable by death in the Mosaic law. I also gave you your master's house and your master's wives into your care, meaning that David received everything that was Saul's. And I gave you the house of Israel and Judah. And if that had been too little, I would have added to you many more things like these. Why have you despised the word of the Lord by doing evil in his sight? You have struck down Uriah the Hittite with the sword, have taken his wife to be your wife, and have killed him with the sword of the sons of Ammon. Now therefore, the sword shall never depart from your house, because you have despised me, and have taken the wife of Uriah the Hittite to be your wife. This conversation must have been just gut-wrenching for both David and God. I'm sure God was incredibly saddened by David's choices and also the fact that he was his anointed. David's decision reminds me of the scene in Finding Nemo where the shark smells blood, his eyes go black, and he completely changes. Unfortunately, sin is sin, and as we saw yesterday, it can have a snowball effect in one's life. For David, life on earth will never be the same from this point on. He had everything going, and in just a few brief moments, he gave it all up. Fortunate for us today, God offers his Spirit to dwell within us, and one of the gifts that we receive from him is self-control. Thus says the Lord, Behold, I will raise up evil against you from your own household. I will even take your wives before your eyes and give them to your companion, and he will lie with your wives in broad daylight, which we're going to see in the coming chapters. Verse 12. Indeed, you did it secretly, but I will do this thing before all Israel and under the sun. Verse 13. Then David said to Nathan, I have sinned against the Lord. And Nathan said to David, The Lord also has taken away your sin. You shall not die. He's a lucky man. Verse 14. However, because by this deed you have given occasion to the enemies of the Lord to blaspheme, and that's because what he did makes a mockery of the real God before unbelievers. Okay, back to the middle of verse 14. The child also that is born to you shall surely die. So Nathan went to his house. And just take a moment and put yourself in David's shoes and just imagine what he's going through. All right. Then the Lord struck the child that Uriah's widow bore to David, so that he was very sick. David therefore inquired of God for the child. And David fasted and went and lay all night on the ground. The elders of his household stood beside him in order to raise him up from the ground, but he was unwilling and would not eat food with them. Then it happened on the 7th day that the child died. And the servants of David were afraid to tell him that the child was dead, for they said, Behold, while the child was still alive, we spoke to him, and he did not listen to our voice. How then can we tell him that the child is dead, since he might do himself harm? But when David saw that his servants were whispering together, David perceived that the child was dead. So David said to his servants, Is the child dead? And they said, He is dead. So David arose from the ground, washed, anointed himself, and changed his clothes. And he came into the house of the Lord and worshipped. Then he came to his own house, and when he requested, they set food before him, and he ate. Then his servants said to him, What is this thing that you have done? While the child was alive, you fasted and wept, but when the child died, you arose and ate food. He said, "While the child was still alive, I fasted and wept, for I said, 'Who knows? The Lord may be gracious to me, that the child may live.' But now he has died. Why should I fast? Can I bring him back again? I will go to him, but he will not return to me." Then David comforted his wife Bathsheba, and went into her and lay with her. And she gave birth to a son, and he named him Solomon. Now the Lord loved him, and sent word through Nathan the prophet, and he named him Jedediah for the Lord's sake. Solomon means God is peace, and his replacement. And Jedediah means beloved of the Lord, which was the name that Nathan gave to Solomon. The fact that God showed love here just displays his never-ending grace, even to a wretch like David. Verse 26, Now Joab fought against Rabbah of the sons of Ammon, and captured the royal city. Joab sent messengers to David and said, "I have fought against Rabbah, I have even captured the city of waters. Now therefore, gather the rest of the people together, and camp against the city and capture it, or I will capture the city myself, and it will be named after me." So David gathered all the people and went to Rabbah, fought against it, and captured it. Then he took the crown of their king from his head, and its weight was a talent of gold, and in it was a precious stone, and it was placed on David's head. And he brought out the spoil of the city in great amounts. He also brought out the people who were in it, and set them under saws, sharp iron instruments, and iron axes, and made them pass through the bricklin, which was brickwork. And thus he did to all the cities of the sons of Ammon. Then David and all the people returned to Jerusalem. The end of the chapter here states that the prisoners of war were put under harsh labor, and some interpret that they were tortured in ways that the Ammonites would do to the Israelites. Not sure, but none of this is good. Except for the glimmer of grace that God extended, everything else going on here is just more examples of how evil man can be. But thank God for his grace, and we'll continue seeing that as we move along. Thank you for being here. Hope to see you tomorrow. God bless you.